I think we have several that may come in the middle, so hopefully they will come in quietly. Let me introduce to you June, going up to the podium. And also welcome our panelists, Mr. Felix and Miss Erin, who are willing to serve on this. I want to say a little bit real quickly about June's thesis, because it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure I would have thought that we would have a thesis on defending co-ed education. But there actually is quite a large population of schools in Korea who are going towards this single-gendered education. And initially, what's funny is June was going to speak on promoting single-gendered education. And as he began to research, he changed sides. And so that's how we got here today. So now June will be speaking about the benefits of co-ed education as opposed to the growing trends in Korea and other places where we have single-gender education. June says these words. He says, "I would like to thank Mr. Wade for being patient with me, Mr. Booty for advising me, and my family and friends who supported me and helped me a lot to go through this thesis. Thank you all." June's topic, his title is Learning Beyond Gender Lines, Co-ed Education, or Co-ed Advantages Explored. So please, once again, welcome June. I'll get seated and get the timer set up. And I'll tell you when you can start. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
Imagine you have a group work, and you can choose the group you want to work with. Group 1 consists of people with several different skills and knowledge about the topic. Group 2 consists of people who essentially possess a similar knowledge about the topic. In this case, I am pretty sure that the first group is the ideal group to choose to have the group work with and to have the best outcome of it. The schools that we attend can also be considered the same way. The ideal school of learning consisted of students with several different perceptions of knowledge about several different topics. However, there is a rise of the opposite, which is single-gender education in some areas like South Korea, America, Ireland, and etc. However, these schools can be lacking. Co-educational schools can provide a more varied set of perceptions towards students, and students in co-educational schools are having more wider knowledges. Therefore, co-educational schools can provide clear advantages over single-gender education. Education is one of the most influential factors of an individual's life, where it provides the foundation of the way that one thinks and how one interacts with another. Most schools today apply co-educational systems where there are combinations of genders in one school. In the same time, to define single-gender education is a system where there is only one gender in one school, either boys or girls. This method of education dates back to ancient Greece. Back then, Greek boys had easy access toward education, given the chance to learn through schools. Sadly, girls did not have equal opportunities as they were expected to stay at home, learn how to do houseworks, although some girls from wealthier families were taught to read. Girls-only schools were not available until the year of 1734 in Ursuline, New Orleans, where they opened their gates for strictly female students only. The school's purpose was gender equality and also women's spiritual and material independence. With Ursuline's initiative, single-gender schools slowly grew in numbers. Yet in the year of 1972, there were some legal challenges called Title IX in the United States. Title IX implements the prohibition of any discrimination for different genders in any educational aspects or activity that receives financial assistance. Title IX momentarily disturbed the growth of single-gender education, and due to these legal challenges, traditional single-gender schools slowly turned into co-educational schools. As of now, we are living in a world where co-educational school systems are deemed to be more common than single-gender education. However, in some areas, single-gender education is still growing in numbers. Single-gender education often exposes students toward the hard time assimilating in the future, and also less exposure toward opposite gender, and also more cattiness specifically for female students. So are we going to excuse this to be the vessel of education for future generations? Therefore, the prominence of co-educational school system should be supported and should be spread wider all over the world with these three reasons. First, it provides gender interaction with the opposite gender. Second, it avoids sexism. And lastly, it provides higher education achievement. There are some major opinions that say single-gender education is needed for students because the education that is needed for female and male students are different. However, the students should still get their education in co-educational schools. In co-educational schools, students are seeds planted in the same garden, blossoming into a vibrant ecosystem of knowledge and understanding. Gender interaction is essential for students in their adolescent stage. Those who experience co-educational schools will necessarily interact with the opposite gender. First, co-educational schools prepare adolescents for a future where they will have a social life with the opposite gender. According to research, 47% of women are employed in a workplace in which they work with the opposite gender. This indicates that people will most likely have interactions with the opposite gender when they are employed. By learning some manners toward the opposite gender, we can also treat our partners with all of our best. Frequent gender interactions can also help adolescents to get rid of any gender stereotypes that they might hold against the opposite gender. Meanwhile, in all-boys school, continuous interaction with the same gender could lead to toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity in this context refers to some manliness that leaks out and sustains dominations. Boys surrounded by only other boys can become judgmental toward their own gender, who often interacts with female students or friends. Toxic masculinity is also well known nowadays because several crimes were initiated by toxic masculinity. When a person does not know how to treat the opposite gender well, they will just tend to dominate their partners in the relationship. Second, gender interaction and also going through the actual relationships will affect the gender stereotypes of a person's worldview. It could change someone's mindset about the opposite gender more positively, and also it can break through some negative stereotypes about the opposite gender by having the actual close interaction with the opposite gender. Researcher Judy Delfini, who created the attachment theory, created a survey for 193 undergraduate students. The result of this study shows that students who were avoidant to gender interaction reported fewer intensive love experiences. Participants who felt anxious were reported frequently, but they rarely had intensive love. Lastly, the secure participants said that they often had satisfying relationship, and also even if their relationship reached the ending point, they ended up on good terms. This led to a second study. The subjects from a first study used the noting form to write their interaction with the opposite gender. Avoidant subjects had fewer connections most likely, or had a small number of interactions with their partners. This result shows the relationships that adolescents go through are essential to open their hearts to the opposite gender in the future. Thirdly, opposite genders interacting with one another creates a beneficial, healthy competitive environment. Co-educational schools help to create a good and healthy learning environment. Every boy and girl can compete as they were and also have healthy competition, which inspires the adolescents to try their best and also comforts them. They have a tendency to fulfill their maximum potential in their work, thus leading to better achievement in healthy competitions. Other than competition, adolescents also have the propensity to have proud feelings from achieving their goals. They do not have feeling of getting caught by others because they are having the healthy competitions. Another strength and benefit that can come from attending co-educational schools are it can avoid sexism. First, co-educational schools can significantly prevent male students from falling into toxic masculinity. Some discriminatory attitudes toward the opposite gender and gender stereotypes are easier to create in single-gender schools. The dangerous aspect of toxic masculinity are firstly, it can cause depression, a higher risk for suicide, or also it can increase some loneliness. In rare cases, it can also affect the risk of men's domestic abuse, such as homophobia, rape culture, and etc. Isby, the awarded author, also stated that whatever the cause, the response is always the form of violence, and also sometimes the violence is outwardly expressed through physical dominance or aggression. Other time, it is inwardly expressed through some addictions or suicide. Overall, toxic masculinity often leads to violence in any form, and it is fatal for adolescents' mind. Second, co-educational schools can avoid feminism, which is a recent ongoing issue in our society. Female students can also prevent falling into extreme feminism. Feminism in this context means that it is an ideology that is aiming at actually changing the life of present-day women to the point that women and men have equal rights in all areas of social life. It is harmful in some aspects of society because sometimes feminism can lead to a change in the worldview of women to the point where they consider every marriage and motherhood as something negative. They lose their initial purpose of becoming feminists, but they tend to discriminate against men and hate them without any reasons. 5 of 6 single-gender education closed within 3 years, with the teachers finding that the teachers in single-sex classroom tended to reinforce rather than to break down traditional gender stereotypes, indicating that single-gender education schools teachers tend to encourage the students to fall into traditional gender stereotypes. Considering that the adolescent stage and school are the places where it builds our worldview, the single-gender education schools teachers might not be suitable for adolescents at this stage. Lastly, it also stated that co-educational schools provide equal opportunities. Female students in co-educational schools usually put more output over their peers who are having the education and attending single-gender education. When boys are present, the girls tend to remain engaged with their studies more than being anxious about the judgment of the male peers. This interaction will have a positive effect on grades and also test scores across all subjects. Since women represent nearly 2/3 of college peers, ensuring females to have some same opportunities for education is the most important key to the development of the world's economic system. There's one more important concern about high school students, which is grades and report cards. First, grammar school students who attend to a co-educational school have a better environment than a single-gender education. According to Edgar Dale's research, an American educator who developed a theory called the cone of experience, says that the average co-educational school systems is a more comfortable community for students. It is said that boys have a tendency to have a lower neuroticism, which is a core personality that is caused by emotional instability. Neuroticism has several negative effects on some behaviors. It leads to the disability of management of worry feelings, which leads to some depression and anxiety. People who are with neuroticism live with some emotional instability and may have some trouble putting their emotion into normal state again after some emotional arousal. Second, students, especially boys, who are going to co-educational grammar schools have higher outcomes of academic achievement. Dale reported that there was a clear superiority in the branch of math with the boys and girls that are attending co-educational school. These results are more clearly happening to boys than girls, because boys are usually getting some advantages from girls who help them with homeworks or also studying for tests without having any distractions. Lastly, boys tend to perform better when it comes to some technical subjects like mathematics and sciences, while girls tend to perform better in some language skills or communication skills. Everyone has their own various skills and abilities. The students who attend to co-educational schools have their own good parts. For instance, a study published in the Journal of Educational Psychology analyzed the data from over 15,000 high school students and found that a co-educational environment activates students with greater academic gains. The data analyzed almost 6,000 students and concluded that there was a positive mutual relationships between co-education and academic achievement. They have a tendency to work together with the opposite genders. They can learn from one another's strengths, share some different perspectives. A co-educational school is just like a diverse ecosystem in which several different types of species coexist and interact harmoniously, just as in nature, when several different species coexist in one ecosystem, they sometimes become mutually exclusive. In the condition where they are helping each other in some situation that they need each other. Or it can be said they are thriving together. Some people believe that co-educational school opens more inappropriate opportunities for students to date at a younger age. It is true that co-educational school opens more opportunities for students to date more in younger age. Yet, dating can be good for adolescents sometimes. First, it can be a useful experience. Being in a relationship from a younger age can allow the students to have a whole new world of perspective. Being in a relationship will give the students the chance to open up to someone that they trust most. In addition, dating at a younger age can also teach more things about the opposite gender to adolescents. For several reasons like gender differences, boys have hard time understanding girls and vice versa. Lastly, dating at a younger age can make us potentially more mature. Dating widens teenagers' eyeglasses toward their life. Opposing views claim that single-gender education lessens the distraction because it only consists of one gender. It is evident that the students will have some distractions and such as attractions toward the opposite gender, which will cause them to prioritize other things rather than academic as a student. Yet, it doesn't mean that there's no distraction when students are studying in single-gender education. There are also several disadvantages of single-gender education schools, and one of them is gender role stereotypes. Classes with segregated genders can be inimical to the personal and also social growth of both genders. Dr. Lieben's research backed this up. Adolescents only by being separated for 2 weeks have a tendency to hold the traditional gender stereotype views. This indicates that co-educational schools will help to prevent that situation by continuously providing the gender interactions. One common concern about this issue is that co-educational schools might cause more cases of sexual harassment. Co-educational schools might indeed cause some cases of sexual abuse. However, it teaches the students more responsible relationships with the opposite genders. And also, it does not mean that same-sex schools do not have any sexual abuse cases. According to Lucy Emerson, the director of the Sex Education Forum, stated that the issue of sexual harassment is about the general essence of school and how the school is addressing the concept of gender and also the concept of power, not about the background of the school, such as location, gender division, and others. She said that the education regarding sex and also gender should continuously be built starting from a younger age and earlier time than other people think. In a co-educational school, diversity enlightens mind, equality fosters growth. To wrap up this thesis, I have shown that co-educational school systems have a great advantages over single-gender schools. Several benefits such as giving some interaction with the opposite gender, it can break through some gender stereotypes and also avoid sexism. Avoiding sexism and going through the gender stereotypes are really necessary experiences for adolescents to go through because in their future workplace, it might require some teamwork skills in order to successfully work together. In addition, the outcome of educational achievement is more successful in the co-educational schools compared to single-gender education. So what if single-gender education becomes the root of educational system? It will be a really tragic situation for future generations to have. The benefits that co-educational schools give might not be a thing for them. They are at the risk of getting inadequate educations in the aspect of academic and also life skills. So as citizens of certain country, what can we do to support the prominence of co-educational schools more than now? As social media is really developed nowadays and gender issues are really sensitive issues, our small actions by creating some small contents in social media that opposes the gender discrimination and shows how students in single gender education is exposed toward gender discrimination, it can be a really big step for us to support the co-educational systems. However, how about for government? What can they do to support the co-educational systems? I call on government to create some lobby for policy changes that supports the equality and also gender diversity. Our small actions can create a brighter future for future generations to have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, June. We'll start the Q&A time now, and let's start with Mr. Felix first.
Hi, June. Well done. That was a good oration. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy your topic as well. It's interesting. I never thought about this before, and when I saw your title, piqued my interest. So I want to know more from what you have. So first, maybe I'd like some data, if you have some data that supports. So you said that there's toxic masculinity happening in all boys school, right? And it exhibits later on when they're adults. So do you have some data on how many percent of men who went to an all boys school exhibit traits of toxic masculinity?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Felix. Uh, I don't really have the exact percentage of the men that are going to the all boys schools and exposed to toxic masculinity, but the thing that I can say is that single gender education opens more opportunities for boys to experience some toxic masculinity, and like the boys that are attending to all boys schools are like more exposed toward the toxic masculinity more than the students who attend the co-education schools.
Okay. So you're saying it opens a possibility.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, good. All right. So in the very beginning of your thesis, you talk about how differing skills or varying skills and perceptions are necessary in order for essential group work to happen, right? And you're saying that this can happen in co-ed schools. Can't it also happen in single-gendered schools where, let's say, multiple girls have different ways of thinking and different ways of perceiving things? Doesn't that also happen in single-gendered schools? What do you think?
Thank you for your question, sir. In my opinion, single gender schools yet can provide some diverse views and also like several different points of several different topics. However, in my opinion, I would still say that there is some differences with the female students having several different minds and and a combination of female and male students have several different opinions. So, in my opinion, I would say that like there is some perspectives of students that can just be reached by the gender differences. So basically, like male students and female students, like the way they think are like totally different. I would say like they are having several different opinions about several different topics, and like I just can say that it's like different when we compare to the female students or male students who have this different diverse views.
Would you maybe outline those differences between boys and girls? How they think?
For example, I can say some child safety, like in the child safety, the policy in our school. Maybe the way that the male students think about child safety and female students that think about child safety can be different. However, female students like when there's a concept of child safety that's addressed to single gender education, for example, for only for female students or only for male students, like the way that they think might be different, like yeah, compared to co-educational school systems.
So let's maybe change it a little bit to a group work setting. I could say you're working on a project. How would the dynamics maybe be different in co-ed schools and in single-gendered schools?
As we're going through several different group works, I'm sure that like the schools will also address some group works about like gender role stereotypes or like the topics about gender. And in these cases, like I would say that the group of female students like thinking about, for example, like some gender issues like toxic masculinity. Since toxic masculinity is oftenly addressed with male students, like female students thinking about toxic masculinity, the concept of toxic masculinity, I would say that they would have some barriers and limit of knowledge about the topic. While like when it comes to the cases where male and female students are in one group, like they can, they can provide a more complete research and set of knowledges when it comes to some topics like gender role stereotypes. So maybe like this by combining the female and male students in one group, like they can solve several like group works and also like so they can basically like finish their group works well, even though their topics are rather toxic masculinity or feminism that is oftenly addressed to the specific gender only.
Okay, so in relation to that, you also mentioned that there are benefits that each gender experience, and you say that boys tend to perform better in technical subjects like math and science, girls are better at languages and communication skills, and you also mentioned just now that they have different ways of thinking. Wouldn't you say that's also gender stereotyping? Because you're labeling like boys are better at this and girls are better at this. Isn't that promoting stereotyping and labeling? What do you think?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Felix. I think it's a good point. I would say that just by saying the male students are like are performing better in sciences and math, and female students are performing better in language skills and communication skills, I don't think like that can also be considered as the gender stereotypes. But I would say that like it's just some public opinion, I guess. Like I would say that like it's more to some uh sorry sir, can I repeat my answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I would say that this is not really the part of gender stereotypes, because like just by saying some students are good at some subjects are not really like aggressive. I would say like it's not that aggressive as like we're saying that some male students are like.
It's okay, we can come back to this later. I would like to explore a different point. And so in your thesis, you argue that, co-ed should be more global, right, across different countries and different worlds. How about in places where culturally men and women are segregated, like Iran and Iraq, and a lot of countries in the Middle East? Men and women, or men, boys and girls, are very much segregated from one another. So, do you think co-ed schools work well there culturally? What do you think?
In my opinion, like for some countries, like yeah, their natures says that like the genders should be separated. For countries like that, I would say that like they can address some educations and also subjects that teaches about the opposite genders in their single gender education. So their classes will still be segregated, but I would say that the solution for that is to provide the subjects or some lessons about the gender role stereotypes or like yeah the gender issues.
Okay, so I mean, from your explanations and from you answering my question, so do you think that we should completely eliminate single-gendered schools and just stick to co-ed schools globally, or do you think they should just coexist, and why?
Thank you for your question. So I would say that like I would not say we should like eliminate single gender education and like there should be no single gender education in this world, but like we can just start from our small steps to maybe like for single gender education nowadays that are still rising in numbers. Maybe we can like address, just as I say before, some lessons or subjects about gender role stereotypes that might prevent them to create some traditional gender stereotypes that might be easily created in adolescent stage. And maybe like in the far future, maybe sometimes, maybe we can, yeah. So maybe co-educational schools are more common nowadays. And like I hope that in some areas like South Korea or America, the single gender school education is still like numerous. I hope like they will also like change their educational system to co-educational schools.
Okay.
We need to move on pretty quickly to Miss Erin.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
All right. Yes, again, thank you for your presentation. Very well done. So a few questions that I have. First, so throughout your presentation, your paper, you stated several times that single gender education is increasing everywhere nowadays. Do you have any data or statistics to support that statement?
Thank you for your question. So Ireland is known as the country that have the most single gender education in the world nowadays. Uh, According to research, like nearly 85% of their schools in Ireland are single gender education, and also like in some areas like South Korea, where I also, like I don't really have the exact data, but like I also have several friends that are attended to single gender education, and like single gender education are really deemed to be more common in like several areas like Americas and also Korea. So like I don't really have the exact percentage about the increase of single gender education, but I would say that like yeah, single gender education nowadays are like deemed to be more common than past times.
All right, thank you. Then next, at the end, you stated that there should be lobbying for policy changes. So what kind of policy changes do you think should take place?
Thank you for the question. The actions that government can take, for example, like maybe they can support more financial assistance toward the co-educational school systems more than single gender education, and maybe like as the title line that's applied in the United States says that it prohibits any discrimination toward any different genders in any educational achievement and any educational activities they receive financial assistance. So by using that legal challenges, maybe government can support support financially more toward co-educational schools more than single gender education. So yeah, financial problem can be the first one.
Thank you. You stated also that there should be more content created on social media that opposes gender discrimination. I do think there is already lots of content geared towards that topic, but can you clarify what kind of content do you think should be created?
The content that can be created to support co-education schools more, maybe like one of them can be the contents that actually shows how students that attend to single gender education is exposed toward gender discriminations, and like how students in single gender education is like having more easier access toward the gender discriminations and some toxic masculinity or feminism. So by showing the dangerosity of single gender education can be a small but big step for the co-educational school systems to grow more.
All right, thank you. I think that's all for me.
Mr. Felix, do you want to keep going? Okay, I have a couple of questions for you, June, and you guys can keep thinking, and I'll come back to you. But I think about junior high, right? And boys are going through puberty, and they got girls in the classroom, and there's all kinds of classroom management issues. Maybe it's because boys are trying to impress the girls in the class. What do you think? Is that a problem of co-ed education? Is we're always, especially in junior high, trying to impress each other, and we act up? What do you think?
It is sometimes true that that can cause the students to prioritize other things more than academic, but like it cannot be considered as the problem for co-educational schools, because I would say that like just by getting attracted by opposite gender and try to impress the opposite gender, I would not consider that as a problem for co-educational school.
Okay, and isn't it true though, if we had a single gender school, then you don't have to deal with the distraction of boys trying to impress girls or vice versa. In fact, you can meet together and talk about how we should respect women. If you're in a boys' school, we could talk about respecting women and how we, in our proper views for women. And then maybe we have a dance on Saturday night with the local girls' school and we show how we respect women and we really train each other to treat women well. Isn't that a benefit if we do it that way? What do you think?
So this boys, like the boys that only in attending to only all boys schools, like are not having the actual interaction with the female students, which will lead them to like create some like negative stereotypes about female students, and also like just by not having the actual interactions, like they do not know like how does female students thinks, and also like because like they are not having any interactions, like they do not actually know the female students well, and just by that condition, I would not I can say like male students that attending to all boys schools can have a quality discussion about female students within themselves, and also I would say that like just by not interacting for a week or more can create some like negative stereotypes about the opposite gender in the adolescent stage, because like adolescent stage is the stage where like it is really easy to create some stereotypes or like some worldviews that are actually harmful.
Okay. And, anytime we talk about things like feminism and toxic masculinity or other kinds of things get a little sensitive, right? And you talked about feminism, and it's not clear to me, are you saying it's a bad thing or only extreme feminism? Because feminism is really helping women out to be who they really have the ability to be. Do you think that's a bad thing, or is it only the sort of extreme feminism that you're kind of calling out?
Feminism in the senses by an ideology, like it's a good thing because like it's actually aiming for change of present day for change of life of present day women until the point where they have the equal rights in every social area. However, like the thing that I would want to say in this essay is about the extreme feminism. So sometimes like feminism, when female have some feminism, like it can sometimes like lead to some extreme feminism, which is said that like they are discriminating men and hating men without any reasons, and also like tend to like just like they are having the act of hatred toward men, and they until the point like where they consider every marriages and also interaction with the opposite gender negatively.
So sort of the extreme feminism is what
yeah.
you're really calling out. Let me tell you a story. Now I'm an old man, right? So when I was in university in the 1980s, before you were ever even born, I was studying electrical engineering, right? And there were very few American females in studying electrical engineering at the University of Texas. It was almost all men. There were a couple of females who were Americans, and then there were a lot of foreign students as well. But everyone would say things like, men are better at engineering and thinking about technical things and stuff like that. And that's sort of the stereotype that has kind of been talked about through the years. But if you look nowadays at electrical engineering at the University of Texas, you have, I think, even more American women studying engineering than American men. Why do you think that is? Is the stereotype just wrong? Because I kind of think it might be. Or is it, I mean, why do you think, does that say anything about how we think about stereotypes that nowadays there are more women than even men studying technical subjects at the University of Texas?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Wade. So basically, like that's one of the disadvantages that students might experience when they are attending to single gender education. Just like what you said, male students just by interacting with each other, like can feel some toxic masculinity can like experience some toxic masculinity, which indicates like they are like more better than females, and they're more better in some areas than females, and like actually it's not really true. Like it shows nowadays like female and male students they just can be better in engineering. So even like female students also can like be better in engineering and like some subjects like when it comes to math and sciences.
Yeah, very good. So I do think there is maybe a richer tapestry when we get the genders together. But to say that one is generally better at something than the other, isn't that not quite accurate to say that one gender is better at something than the other, even if maybe, you know what I'm saying? Seems a little bit we're stereotyping, we're making generalizations that aren't always true, right?
So so the reason why I oppose single gender education, like one of the main big branch of reason is like the students that attend to single gender education, like no matter they are boys or girls, like they can easily feel like they are more higher than opposite gender, and like yeah, that's one of the most like main reason, one of the most big picture of my thesis. So yeah, I would like to prevent that. So I would support co-educational schools more than now.
Okay, we have lots of questions, but you've gone through the 20 minutes, so I have no more questions for you to get. Okay, thank you, June. Good job. Please, family and friends, meet over here at the backdrop and take pictures with June.
Thank you, sir.
And